It's no secret that our country is deeply divided, but if there's one thing we probably share in common, it's the notion that we all ought to have an opportunity to pursue the American dream. This notion that we can work hard, we can make it to the middle class. My father had that dream. He was born in 1935 in a little small town in Leavenworth, Kansas. And as he was growing up, he really didn't have a lot of influence from his father. His father rode the railways and sorted the mail, sort of the thing you see happening in the movies was the train speeds through town, they hang the mail on the hook, and he sorts the mail on to the next town. And in fact, when my dad was a young man in junior high school, he decided to leave the family entirely. So my father was essentially raised by his mother. When he graduated high school in 1953, he really didn't know what he wanted to do with his life, so he started driving the milk truck, a little 2-ton milk truck around town, delivering milk and cream to businesses, the local prison, the Veterans Administration Hospital. And his best friend, this was the time period just between the Korean War and the Vietnam War, his best friend was headed off to join the service because he was afraid of getting his draft notice, and my dad, not having anything better to do, decided to join him. So he signed up for the Navy. He spent 4 years in the Navy, mostly in the South Pacific on an aircraft carrier, learning how to fix airplanes. When we got out of the Navy, he came back home and had access to the GI Bill, and decided to go off to college. He was going to go to the University of Kansas. He'd been a Jayhawk fan all his life, and that's what he wanted to do. But he hadn't really taken the right curriculum in high school, and when he got to college, he lasted a few weeks, and he dropped out. He wasn't prepared. Luckily for my father, this was a time in the country when having a college degree wasn't necessary. So he went and got his telecommunications license, and he ended up working for 38 years at a place that some of you will remember called Trans World Airlines. He retired there. For 38 years, he carried a lunchbox and a thermos to work that was lovingly prepared by my mother. He was able to provide the middle class dream, the American dream, for his family. He paid for and sent 2 boys off to college, and we were able to do so without a penny of student loan debt. We literally lived in the White House on the Hill. We had a little fence in the backyard, always had a dog in the backyard. We always had 2 cars that were always working, one that he used to carpool back and forth with his people that worked over at Trans World Airlines. But the world today is a very, very different place. For my dad, who was part of what's called the silent generation, only 13% of his generation graduated with college. The rest, just a high school education. And only 5% of those people with a high school education ended up living in poverty. Today, we know that a college education has a tremendous impact on our personal lives and on the well-being of our community. We know in the area of health that people that have a college education are less likely to be obese. They're 17% less likely to smoke. 25% more likely to exercise according to national standards. In the area of civic engagement, people with a college education are more likely to attend events like this, more likely to join civic organizations. They have a greater appreciation of the arts. They live in communities that have lower crime rates. They are twice as likely to vote in elections, and they're more tolerant. And on a personal front, it has tremendous impact on economics. Some people have estimated that it is more than twice the value of an investment in 1950. It outperforms the stock market that well. People with a college education over the course of a lifetime nationally earn over $1 million more than someone with just a high school degree. In the state of Arkansas, that figure is about $750,000. And during the last recession in this country, people with a college education had an unemployment rate of just 3% compared to those people who had no college education at 12%. Tremendous power of a college education. So why do we have so many people who have decided to not pursue a college education? We truly have a crisis in this country. If we know the tremendous transformative power of a college education, why do we have this circumstance? In the state of Arkansas alone, we have 356,000 people who started college, earned some credit, and then did not complete a college degree. And the ripple effect of this is tremendous. We rank 48th in the nation in terms of the percent of our population with a college education. We're 49th in the nation in terms of median income. And 87% of the jobs in this state do not support a family income to support a family of 4. We need more people to pursue that college education and to get across the finish line. These are the deferred dreams that I'm talking about. These are the people who had the dream of going to college. They understood the value of being in school, and yet something happened along the way. The team that I'm working with at eVersity likes to say simply, life got in the way. I'd like you to take a moment and think about a college student for a moment. Perhaps close your eyes just for a second and think about what a typical college student looks like to you. Maybe not quite this guy, but there's fraternities and sororities, there's ivy-covered buildings, there's stadiums that resemble coliseums, there are clubs and organizations, there's frisbees flying across the quad, there's faculty working closely with students, there's the opportunities for people to mature and to grow and build deep bonds, perhaps finding their spouse, perhaps finding a lifelong academic pursuit. Of the 17.5 million people that are in college, just 15% of them meet that image. The vast majority of college students are part-time. They're going to school, they're leading complicated lives, they're working at home. 62% of people attending college today work. 26% of them work full-time. 28% of people attending college do so while raising a child. And half of those people do so as single parents. So despite all the money that we are investing in higher education, all those ivy-colored buildings, all those elaborate stadiums, all those beautiful manicured grounds on our college campuses, which serve an important purpose to educate some of our best and brightest young minds, the vast majority of students don't have a single institution that serves their needs, that was built specifically for them. So in 2014, the University of Arkansas system decided to take the very bold step of building a new institution specifically designed for the overwhelming majority of people who are attending college. We call this the eVersity. And we were challenged to rethink what college education should look like. We did some of the traditional things. We began by assembling a leadership team that has nearly 200 years of experience in higher education, deep experience in academic advising and student records, and fabulous teachers from across the University of Arkansas system. We looked at places like behavioral economics to try to determine how we might move students across the finish line. We looked at things like psychology to try to see if we could gain deeper understandings of how the adult student might be a little different than the more traditional student. But we also looked at very unconventional sources of inspiration. And one of the things that inspired me most was actually some of the work of Picasso. Now you might be wondering, why in the world is an educator looking at Picasso to try to decide how to build an educational institution? And if you'll think of studies of art, we've all heard of these places where the artist began with a charcoal sketch they've unearthed after examining perhaps the back of a canvas, or they found a sketchbook someplace, and then layer upon layer upon layer of paint is added to the painting, and finally we end up with this glorious picture of water lilies or perhaps haystacks or a gorgeous portrait. Well, in 1945 and 1946, towards the end of 45 and beginning of 46, about the time my father was 10, Picasso began a series of illustrations to really do the reverse, to deconstruct art, to look at it from a completely different way, to rethink the world of art. And over a series of several weeks, he began to sketch what are known as the Picasso bulls. He began through his drawings to try to determine what the essence of the bull was. He started with the most detailed example of the bull. He began to sketch it in ways that examined the muscles, to get at the core, to get at the power, to really try to determine what was the true essence of the bulls. In about 2 weeks, he arrived at this: 9 very simple strokes of a pen that represent the true essence of the bull. He made it simple. He made it simple. It is our contention that college has become far, far too complicated. That for people that live very, very busy lives, we have created way too many barriers to getting people back into college. If you're a mother of 2 and you're working a couple of jobs, chasing down your high school transcripts might just be a little bit too much beyond the pale to get you back into school. And as we looked at works like Picasso, where he was truly trying to find the essence of the bull, we said, what is the essence of college? The essence of college is not being able to navigate a complicated administrative process to get back into school. It's not how do you nuss out from the details of a syllabus what the true points are in the course. Our goal is to get to the essence of college, which is learning. And so every day, our team asks a couple of questions. We are guided by the principle of what is in the best interest of students. Not the faculty, not the institution, not the alumni, but what's in the best interest of students. And we have this at our core, that college should be hard, but going to college shouldn't be. And what we mean by that is we want you to study like crazy in class. We want our faculty to challenge you. You are going to receive the same quality of education that you receive as though you attended a brick and mortar institution. But we're going to make it crazy easy for you to get there and to get that education. We want to get to the core, to the essence of college. Let me give you a couple of examples of how we do this. This is the traditional college admission process. You apply, you spend a little money doing that, then you're asked to go get your high school transcripts, which costs you a little bit of money. Then you got to go get your college transcripts, which costs you a little bit of money. Then you got to send your SATs and ACT scores. You got to pay them to do that. Once all that's there, the college takes the time to admit you. Then you've got to come to campus and take some tests to determine whether or not you can read, write, and do math at the college level. That takes a little bit of money. Once you're there on campus, you got to go to an orientation session. That takes a little bit more money. Then you got to go visit with some academic advisors, some financial aid officers, fill out a FAFSA. Then you enroll in classes finally, and that takes a lot of money. Then you go to the bookstore, you spend a little bit more money, and guess what? Then you can finally go to class. Imagine trying to do that if you're working a full-time job and you're busy and you've got kids. Here's what we do. You fill out an application, we go get your transcripts from high school, we go get them from your college, we pay for that. We don't have any tests to determine whether or not you can read or write and do math at the right level because we include that in the classes that we're going to teach you. We make an admission decision based on whether or not you graduated high school. And then we put you in a class. And our first class is free because we want to give you the opportunity to come back to college, to try it, to see that you are capable of doing it. It's simple. At the essence of education. It's not about navigating that snake of a process to get back into school. It's about getting you to where you need to be as quickly as you possibly can, back into class so that we can teach you. We also do a lot in that very first class to try to understand you. We believe that our students are different not only in age and life circumstance, but they're different from each other. Some are raising children. Some are quite advanced in their education preparations and simply want to get across the finish line. Some have a great deal of tenacity and can fight through problems. Some have very little hope that they can do this. We ask them these questions. Why did you quit school? What are your goals by coming back to school? Because we believe our messaging to students ought to be targeted to their individual circumstance. If you can fight through problems and you have a great deal of tenacity, what we sometimes call grit, if you have high levels of hope, we need to talk to you and advise you very, very differently than if life is just about to overwhelm you. And we get that information and learn about students in their very first class so that we can guide and personalize the intervention. One thing we learned in preparing for this university is by talking to our students and talking to employers is that what they really want to do is improve their life circumstances. They want degrees and coursework that will help them succeed in the real world. This may surprise you, but most employers really don't care much about what you learned in U.S. history prior to 1865. What they want to know is can what you're learning in class help you in the real world? So for every one of our courses and for every one of our degree programs, and we're only offering degree programs in areas that relate to the real world. I'm a political science professor by training. The only thing that qualifies me for is either unemployment or remaining in higher education for the rest of my life. I've chosen higher education. We focus on degrees that apply to the real world, and in every course, we embed competencies that employers across the state of Arkansas told us that they are interested in. And these have been confirmed by national studies by an organization called the Hart Research Group in 2013, 93% of employers said these things like, can you communicate? Can you work as part of a team? Do you have good data literacy skills? Do you have creative skills? This is what employers tell us matters in the sector of the economy. This is what our students need in order to advance and improve in their lives. I began by telling you about my father. I'm going to tell you about a few other students. A few years ago, I had an opportunity to work with a student who, sort of like my father, grew up really without the influence of his father in his life. He's largely raised by his mother. We got him admitted into school, and he made it through his first year of classes. And long about the second year of classes, he was playing basketball over in the gymnasium, and he broke his hand, the hand he took notes with. And he quit going to class. You can imagine what happens when you quit going to class. He failed. The difference is this student is a member of Generation X. And in Generation X, if you do not have a college education, if all you have is a high school education, you have a 22% chance of living in poverty. This conversation matters. It matters a great deal. We have a student whose name is Kim. She graduated 4th in her class. Bright student. She went off to college, and she got pregnant, got married too early by her own admission. Her child has some disabilities. Her marriage failed, and she now needs to return to school under those circumstances to try to finish an education. I have a student named Kevin who has 2 young boys that are about to head off to college. He never finished, and he wants to set the example for them to finish what he started. So he's one of our students. And I have another student named Kim who has 91 college credits and finds herself 45 miles from the nearest 4-year school that would allow her to complete her degree. This is why we are doing eVersity. And we need your help. Arkansas needs your help. With 356,000 people in this state without a college degree that have some college, every one of us knows somebody in this circumstance. We need to get these people back into college. We can no longer be 49th in median income, 48th in the percent of people with a college education. We need to rekindle these dreams. Thank you.